Hello everyone, this is Ponder on Weather. In this update, we've got several more days of severe storms with damaging winds and larger hail, then a June cold front, then possibly a first tropical system of the season could form into the Gulf of Mexico with U.S. impacts by this weekend. Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday out there. This is your end of May. I appreciate all my followers out there that helped me reach 110,000 followers yesterday. So I appreciate each and every one of you. If you are new to the channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and notification bell to get all my daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. And it's also important to share this video with your friends and family on social media with the impacts over the next several days. So let's really break this thing down for you this morning and take a look at the overall radar setup. And I included the time and date on the top left hand corner of the screen so it's easily visible. Here is the overall setup this morning. We had this little surface low that really packed all the extremely dangerous storms over parts of the Dakotas into Minnesota yesterday. That surface low is now pulled back up into Canada, and where they have rainfall warnings up there in Winnipeg this morning with a lot of heavy rain. But you can see where the cold front is. It's tailing back behind in the upper central plains here, and out ahead of it you got the warm sector. So that's where you have the storms this morning, and just kind of southeast of the Des Moines area. That fishtails all the way down into northwest Missouri, and this goes all the way into portions of Kansas. And these will start to really kind of get its act together as we get into the later afternoon, especially into the early evening time frame. So let's break this thing down for you for yesterday, because here are the just kind of the initial preliminary storm reports. We had all that severe weather really start to break out in the early afternoon hours yesterday in parts of the Dakotas, especially into Minnesota. Right now they have 5 reported tornado reports yesterday, but there's possibly going to be adding to those as the National Weather Service is going to be surveying all the damage. But numerous large hail reports and a lot of high winds, and those storms will be on the move ahead of that cold front. And that's where we do find ourselves with an enhanced risk for severe storms today into portions of the Texas Panhandle all the way down into Lubbock. This extends all the way into essentially central and northwestern Oklahoma, goes into southeastern Kansas here, but this all the way into Missouri, into portions of central and northern Illinois. It goes all the way up into Michigan here with those stronger storms out ahead of the cold front. Not nearly as severe as they were yesterday, but these could definitely be on the stronger side, especially as we get into the evening time frame. So let's break this thing down for you and take a look at the overall hail setup. Again, the date is the top left-hand corner of the screen, and where you see that hatched risk, that's where you're talking about some of those damaging hail. We're talking about that golf ball size hail potential. That's 1.75 inches or greater. That's would cause damage to your vehicles and potentially your home. So definitely you need to be on high alert as we get into the later evening time frame, especially later afternoon into the early evening time frame, essentially into Lubbock, into the Texas Panhandle, northwestern Oklahoma, as well as southeastern Kansas here, with some of those larger hailstones. And this is not really a tornado type setup, but you can't really rule out ahead of that leading edge of that cold front a kind of an isolated spin up tornado. So you definitely can't rule out, but the main impacts from this system are going to be your damaging winds and some of the larger hailstones, and some of those could be on the golf ball size hail or potentially ping pong variety. Then the isolated tornado reports can't be ruled out along the leading edge of this cold front. But let's take a look at the overall radar, what it could potentially look like. And I actually included the cloud cover. So all these areas in blue here, that is where you're seeing some of the more or less clearer skies and not where the storms will be. But I want you to take a look at the overall setup where the kind of the traverse of these showers and thunderstorms. This is what they call northwest flow. This is pretty prevalent once you get towards the end of May and especially in the June timeframe where they've got those northwest winds aloft, and that's what transcends these storms down off the northwest flow out ahead of these cold fronts that only can make it so far south this time of year. But this one's actually going to be making it into Oklahoma, you know, by the time we get into the evening time frame tonight. So we could be looking at some stronger storms breaking out in the Texas Panhandle. This is about 9 o'clock tonight, around into northwestern Oklahoma, southeastern Kansas. This extends into central Missouri, and even Chicago up there in northern Illinois could start getting pretty bumpy into the evening time frame. And then you just kind of see down into Florida where you see some of those kind of tropical type moisture showers going to be impacting your area. But for the rest of the country in the southeast and much of the northeast and the mid-Atlantic, fairly clear ahead of that cold front. But let's extend the view and take a look at the overall rainfall setup, because along the leading edge, some of these could be fairly significant rainfall producers of several inches of rain. So a slight risk for excessive rainfall has been included for northwestern and Oklahoma, getting into southeastern Kansas here, then kind of a marginal risk into portions of central Missouri into northern Illinois here, where you see the marginal risk that typically it kind of sees about 1 to possibly 2 inches of rain. Where you see the slight risk, it implies more or less 2 to 4 inches of rain. So definitely some of those minor street flooding could be impacting your areas, especially as we get into the evening time frame. But that cold front will be on the move, so by the time we get into Wednesday, notice it really doesn't really move that much, right? It definitely slows down, so that's what's happening. We still got in the kind of the same areas into Lubbock, and in fact that's not that bad out here because they desperately need the rainfall. Obviously they don't need the severe stuff, but hey, they'll take how they get it out here in West Texas, where they do have some of the slight risks. So some of those could be some pretty heavy rain producers, and some larger hail producers, again, back into the Texas Panhandle. This extends into Oklahoma, and then this will extend into a marginal risk as we go all the way up into portions of the Ohio Valley, includes Indiana, as well as Ohio here. And then you could see some stronger storms where they have a little bit more instability and more heat to work with still up here in northeastern Ohio, especially northern Pennsylvania. And then as you get into upstate New York, places like Buffalo, into Rochester, into Watertown, some of those could be on the stronger side up there. But down below, we still have more of that excessive flash flooding report. So not only you're going to deal with it today, but especially into tomorrow. So you're talking 2 to 4 inches possibly really each day, possibly, and some of those isolated setups into Oklahoma. So those flash flooding is definitely a concern, and that's why they actually have flash flood watches in place right now for the next 2 days. So let's take a look at the overall radar setup for your Wednesday, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, ahead of that cold front. So these storms could start getting their act together in Oklahoma and Kansas, especially in Missouri here, traversing all the way into Indiana, then kind of pockets of into Ohio, as well as into portions of Pennsylvania. And this fishtails all the way along the coast here into Jersey, into New York City, possibly into Connecticut, Massachusetts. Those areas could be under the gun to seeing some of those stronger storms by you get into your 4 o'clock time frame. But as we get into the kind of the overnight, and you got that northwest flow, right? So this continues to push further off into the southeast. So by the time you get into your early time frame on 5 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, those storms could be impacting, getting on the culprit of the Dallas-Fort Worth area ahead of that cold front. And this now goes into portions of southern Oklahoma, and this will finally get into Arkansas by then, but still going to be impacting in portions of Indiana as well as Ohio into Thursday morning. But you can definitely see where the cold front is, right? This is a June cold front, fairly significant for June standards. And back behind it, you can see widespread 40s, even some 30s kind of showing up on the map for your Thursday morning around 7 o'clock time frame. 51 there in Amarillo, widespread 50s and even some 40s in New Mexico, and even northern parts of Arizona will get in the action of some of those cooler conditions on the backside. But yeah, there you go. There's the cold front. I mean, you wake up possibly 77 degrees in Dallas, just waiting for that cold front of any relief that that may bring. But again, that cold air just won't sink that much further south as you get into the day on Thursday. And you can kind of tell where the cold front will be based on the Storm Prediction Center map, right? So the storms kind of lose its luster by the time we get into Thursday, and it essentially stalls out here into central Texas. So those could be on the marginal side, you know, as we get into that. Again, you're in the warm sector, and that daytime heating extending possibly into Austin, into Waco, back into Shreveport, getting into Greenville, into Little Rock. This will extend into Nashville, into Jacksonville, into Bowling Green, up there in the Kentucky. And this goes all the way up into portions of West Virginia, and even Roanoke will get some of those stronger storms. But as we get into the warmer sector with a little bit more instability, kind of along the coast here into DC, and even places that all the way up into Philly, those could be on the little bit stronger side as we get into the afternoon time frame. But beyond that, let's take a look at your weekend, because that cold front will be on the move, but it'll more or less kind of wash out and fizzle itself out. So it'll more or less kind of retreat further back to the north. So you have the trough essentially well to the north, and we have yet another trough that's going to be digging down into the Pacific Northwest, where they just have relentless cooler conditions and kind of the rainier showers, especially into Washington and Oregon and Northern California, they've been dealing with for a good part for an extended time frame, and that looks to just continue. But what really stands out here is this little feature right here off the coast of Florida. That's actually that's actually what could be the reemergence of the remnants of Hurricane Agatha yesterday that did make landfall into Central America with a Cat 2, 105 mile per hour winds. Now that's actually kind of petered itself out over the mountains, but the remnants is still traversing northeast. And I showed you kind of that cold front will be on the move. So that will push this system further northeast along with just the overall flow. So actually the National Hurricane Center has actually even upgraded this further to about a 60% chance. I mean, this is right on schedule, because the hurricanes season starts actually tomorrow, June 1st. So we're really kind of on the cusp of this developing. But there is a lot of shear. There's a ton of shear in the Gulf of Mexico, along with the emergence of this cold front will push this basically further into Florida. A lot of the ensemble members guidance has this going into Florida, or potentially into Cuba, or even potentially into the Bahamas. But with a lot of shear into the Gulf of Mexico, it's just going to be a sloppy, more or less rainmaker. So I'm not looking to, if this does actually develop into kind of a weak tropical system or even a subtropical system, it will be named Tropical Storm or Subtropical Storm Alex. But this, whether it forms or not, will be a heavy rain producer getting into Florida and essentially into possibly the Bahamas as we get into the weekend. So let's take a look at the overall rainfall setup between now and Sunday morning. So here's the setup with these kind of multiple troughs is going to be coming across off the Pacific Northwest. You got the Washington and Oregon and Idaho, and much of Montana, much of Wyoming gets impacted with these systems. Further south, just kind of bone dry of what you've been seeing as of late. And hey, we can even sneak some rain showers into New Mexico. I know that doesn't look like much, but hey, they'll take all the things they get out there into all the wildfires that they've been dealing with. So even a 1/10 of an inch or a 1/4 inch will take it all day long up here in New Mexico. But once these systems tap into some of that Gulf moisture, and as these cold fronts kind of move across, we could be looking at, and that's where they've got those flash flood watchers in place today, into Oklahoma and portions of Kansas and to Missouri, where some of those higher impacts, and you can see where that surface low is up there in Winnipeg, right? Up here into Canada, where they're getting some of those heavier rain amounts. But That system that will come out of Central America will traverse over the Yucatan. So places like Cancun, places like Cozumel, into Playa del Carmen will be hit with very heavy rain. This will traverse across Cuba and possibly be producing multi-inch rains into the state of Florida, into central and southern Florida. And this will extend and reemerge back into on the southeast coast, but I think it remains well offshore, as we'll probably go out to sea. The GFS is a little bit further south, and a lot of the ensembles have it actually a little bit further south as well. So it pushes a little bit the higher rain precipitation a little bit further south, more or less in South Florida, and will be impacting much of the Bahamas. But I'm kind of favoring more on the Euro side of this one, where I think it does traverse a little bit further north and impacts more central Florida and then southern Florida as we get into the end of the weekend. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video and definitely leave your comments below. And tomorrow's update, I will be kind of giving you an overall snapshot of the June outlook. So definitely stay tuned to that, so I can kind of walk you through maybe what's to come for the rest of the month of June. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Catch the latest update where I protect you before and after storm.